Hello, and welcome to Loremaster Investigation, where our where we this is a good start. Sit atop our magic astral castle and muse over the tabletop role-playing game genre. I'm Cody.
And I'm Joe, and I'm excited to be back here in the castle. I brought a sweater this time
Nice,
because the
nice.
last couple times it was like a little chilly up here. I think.
Yeah, I think we need to do some insulating. I think some of the magic wood, if you will, is starting to fight back, like that one
Something
show.
something joke about magic wood. Um. Yep. So
Ooh,
hey,
wow,
how?
that almost went all over my computer. That was
Oh
amazing.
no, I'm sorry.
No, that was
You
great.
were going for a sip, and and I and I
No, that was
ru-
perfect because I'm trying to think of the show. Magicians had
Yeah.
magic tree wood or whatever. Um,
hmm
and that's what I was trying to go for, and then I'm just like, I love where you took it.
You know what? I haven't watched much past I think season 2 of The Magicians, but I bet dollars to donuts they made that joke in there.
I mean, I
Um,
sure hope so. I can't really remember it. I think I finished it,
how many
but
seasons are out now? There's at least 3. I know that. I think I finished
Um,
season 2.
you know, that's a good question.
Well, what other stuff have you been up to as of late?
Oh boy, quite a bit actually. I
Yeah.
saw a new. Maybe I talked about it a little or on the last series of recordings, but I
hmm
picked up a game called Undermine,
Oh yeah.
which is
How's that going?
it's good. It's a roguelite game where you kind of like keep diving deeper and deeper, and I got like at first it's just kind of like, oh haha, like you're just kind of playing to feel out the game, but I think I know like the like you basically keep going until you find bosses and stuff, and I'm at the point now where like saying like, oh, I'm gonna do a run, because when I first started it's like, oh, I'm gonna do a run, and that can be anywhere from like 15 to 30 minutes, but now it's like I've gotten so good that being like, oh, I might do a run is usually the equivalent of an hour,
Okay.
and I'm just not used to that yet. So like, um, yeah, I was supposed to do something. I'm like, all right, I'll just do one quick one and done. 30 minutes in and out, undermine, and then like an hour later, I'm like, oh my god, that was the best dive ever. I got to a new boss, and then I got my ass handed to me as per usual.
hmm
But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. What about you? What nerdy stuff have you been up to?
Oh man, I started watching, or I started kind of rewatching the television program Doom Patrol.
Nice,
Um,
nice. How is
yeah,
it?
I'm enjoying it. Do you know anything about Doom Patrol? It's kind of an obscure-ish DC property.
Isn't it
Um,
like a ragtag group of extraordinary misfits joined together to fight crime?
yeah, pretty much. And like it's one of those like fascinating deals where like it was kind of like a forgotten book from like the 60s I want to say, and then it got a second life in the 80s by Grant Morrison, or maybe like the 90s, but Grant Morrison kind of revived it. But it's interesting because it's one of those deals where like it comes out within a month of X-Men, and like there are some pretty big similarities where it's like this kind of like mansion out in the middle of nowhere, and it's like these people who are kind of like broken, and like the society has turned their back on them, and like the leader is like kind of nice but also kind of mysterious, and he's in like a wheelchair and stuff. And I was talking to my comics friend about this, and he was like, yeah, it's one of those deals where it's just kind of like a weird coincidence because you have to turn in scripts like at least like 2 months before like the the um the publication date, because you have to give the artist time to like draw the panels and letter it and color it and everything like that. So it's not like DC or Marvel, whichever one like caught wind of the other and started writing it really quick. Like it just happened to be that two people had kind of a weirdly similar idea within like close proximity to one another. So,
Yeah, the hive mind space. I'm kind of at the point in my life now where I believe that we're all mentally connected on a very like passive level, and we just kind of siphon ideas from the ether at this point because there's just so many coincidences now where it's like,
mm-hmm.
oh, this guy who never talked to an individual in his life was developing an app that somebody else was developing, and all sorts of stuff like that where things kind of
Yeah.
fall into that same area. I'm sure I'm wrong and that this is just like weird conspiracy stuff, but that's
Well,
my
like
thought.
you have like Volcano and Dante's Peak coming out within like the same like summer. You have Deep Impact and Armageddon, which are both about like asteroid strikes on the Earth within like the same summer.
Yeah.
The only one I know for sure, or like, I mean, I'm sure there's other examples of this, but like, I think one of the most like agreed upon, like, this was just a petty move by a petty person was, the movie Ants, the DreamWorks film
Yeah, because there was
starring
Bug's
Woody
Life.
Allen. Cause yeah, apparently, yeah, Jeffrey Katzenberg like left Disney and like basically was just like, all right, we're doing whatever it takes to get this movie out before A Bug's Life, and like apparently did some pretty sketchy, mean things, and that guy kind of sucks. Um,
Also, if you've ever watched, did you watch Ants?
I have never seen Ants.
Dude, it's kind of fucked up. Like the
Mm-hmm.
movie itself is fucked up. There's like a whole like war scene where like even as a kid I felt really uncomfortable with the wanton violence that this movie had. And like I get it, they're cartoon ants and there's no like blood, but like they were straight up like stabbing each other with like leaf-like weapons, and like I was pretty young when that movie came out and I was like, what the fuck? Although it would have been a young like, oh my god, this is crazy. Also,
Dang.
I have an answer for you. There are only
Oh
five
yeah.
seasons of The Magicians. I
Okay.
think they alluded that they were going to do a season 6, but it got canceled.
Okay.
So I don't
I
think
mean,
that.
I know like this show is popular, so but
Yeah, I think it's, without spoiling anything because I don't want to do that. Those first
mm,
couple of seasons are really good, and then I feel like they kind of retread the same areas, and the only reason there's any kind of drama is because characters don't develop like they should.
got it.
So kind of the supernatural effect where like it was starting
Sure.
to starting to like fall in on itself, starting to supernova.
But yeah. Oh hey.
Yeah. That
Oh hey,
was
it's
great.
Bookity. It's
Bookity. Yeah.
Bookity the book.
Bookity
Hi
DeWitt.
Bookity. Oh yeah, you have a question for us? Chill. Um, hey Cody, do you wanna pull out Bookity and see what the question is for us?
Yeah, let me rip some good Foley work that I'm.
Rip? Oh God,
You said pull out.
Bookity, no!
Oh no, what have I done? He's bleeding everywhere.
Oh God, Bookity, no!
Don't worry, don't worry. It's a magic book, so it'll heal.
Okay,
Um, so
we're gonna get so many angry fan letters.
I'm just imagining the deep lore. On episode 10 of Loremaster Investigation, Cody commits wanton murder on the
Yeah.
podcast of
God,
beloved Bookity. Yeah,
everyone's favorite book.
yeah, well, these things happen. But anyways, on the bloody piece of paper that I have in my hand,
Oh God.
he'll be fine. We have magic. It'll be okay. We just need to find a diamond and like 500 gold. Um,
Now
that's
who's wasting money?
well, okay, me. But anyways, it says on here. Hold on, let me wipe away some of the blood. Helping
Wow, we're just really
players
committing.
get out of their shell for role playing at the
Oh,
table. Yeah.
interesting.
So,
This is certainly the first I'm hearing of this.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we're doing something a little different today. Did
Ooh.
you wanna explain it? I know you had an
Oh,
intro, or did you want me
sh-
to explain it? I don't think we.
sure. I can do it.
Yeah, hit me with that
So,
deep lore.
so, you know, basically, long story short, I suppose, um, we kind of realized that Loremasters gives us a kind of unique opportunity that we weren't necessarily capitalizing on, which is, Cody, while Cody has played characters and things like that, he spends a lot of his time behind the DM screen, and I spend a lot of my time on the player character side of things. In fact, I've spent the majority of my role playing experience. So we thought we would kind of formulate questions for one another. I asking the DM and the DM asking the player, like, how to handle these situations, because it gives us the opportunity to kind of see how the other one's mind thinks and sees this, and who knows, maybe over time as I get more experience with DMing on our other various shows like One Shot and things like that, perhaps we can even switch it up from time to time. But as of now, it's going to be asking the DM and the DM asking the player.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, just like a little bit of preamble. So it's interesting because we all come to the table with like different levels of experience. Obviously, like there are people out there who have done things like improvisational comedy or acting or creative writing, and there are some people who just kind of like want to hang out with friends, or sometimes we all sometimes you have that new player sitting around the table, um and um it's kind of a scary thing, even if you're sitting around the table with friends. um the cool thing and a fun thing about tabletop role-playing games is they're kind of designed to like push us out of our comfort zone, but obviously everyone kind of does it at their own speed and at their own time. So yeah, I think that it's important to try to find ways to make sure that everyone feels safe and in a way that they can thrive. So I'm going to start off by asking you a question, Cody.
Yeah, hit me.
Yeah. How do you try and encourage players to participate without making them feel singled out?
Hmm. Well, I think a part of it is that I don't ask people to role play. I think that is a fallacy to expect people to just kind of outright, like, you need to do silly character voices, or you need to do this or that. Like, that they are people, and they are people who are here to play a game. And so being a kind of, I don't know, I feel like having those high expectations for somebody is really kind of like melodramatic and whatnot. But if I am kind of trying to get them on the same level as everybody else, or maybe I'm trying to, I don't know, like, I guess I want people to enjoy themselves, and in my brain, uh if everyone is interacting at the table, they're having a good time. So often what I do to kind of help people who might not be, you know as as role play, or who are, not necessarily uh going all in, is I will ask them questions about what their character's doing while other people are. I try to move the spotlight on them in a way that doesn't feel like forced or whatever. Like, sometimes it'll, like, there'll be a scene playing out, and maybe it's you and somebody else are having a conversation, and then, like, that conversation comes to a low point or a lull, and it's got a natural ending, and I'm like, okay, well, this person who I'm trying to, like, get out of their shell, have a good time, is, what are you doing in this moment? Like, what is your character doing? Or I'll ask people, I'll try to move the scene to other people and keep the spotlight moving so that people feel comfortable, being in the spotlight. And, and if they want to role play and they just feel uncomfortable, hopefully that spotlight movement will get them in a comfortable position to do such a thing.
Cool.
Yeah. And it's fairly basic. I don't really have like, some secret technique. It's just kind of asking people like, "Oh, what is your character doing? What are you doing during this moment?"
Hmm.
But that's basically what I got for that. Um, from the game master looking at the player, Joe, what was either your first moment when you kind of came out of your shell or your most memorable moment while you were role playing? And what inspired
Ooh.
that moment?
Um, I think that I would say that I've always kind of like felt comfortable with the role playing aspect of these games just because I was like a person who did a lot of theater in high school and things like that. Um and I feel like I was always trying to do like, sometimes, it's hard to maintain these things over a long period of time. Um but I will say I feel like a moment that maybe like th- I don't know if intimidated was the right word, but like there's always a moment where like you're playing with a new group of people that you've never necessarily played with before,
Yeah.
where you have to kind of ask yourself the question of like, how committed do I want to go with this? And so um I was playing a game of Apocalypse World with a friend from college and a group of friends that he had kind of accumulated since we had graduated. And so a lot of the time, a lot of these people was like their first time playing. And so I kind of sit down and I build my character, and he has like three lieutenants that follow him around. And I had distinct character voices for all four of them. And the one guy kind of like looks at my friend. He goes, do we have to do that? My friend's like, oh, no, Joe's been doing this for a while. Like, this is kind of like drinking water. And so like part of me actually kind of felt like almost a little bad, because I was like, oh, I hope I didn't like intimidate these guys by like, um
Putting
kind of
in all
going.
the fucking work. Damn, four different characters with four.
I mean, they like three of them were very similar was the thing. It's just that it was various like intonations. And they were also based off of four very obscure early Marvel villains,
Sure.
one of whom was named Fancy Dan, whose superpower was that he knew this ancient art called karate, because this comic was written in like the 60s. Um,
Jeez. Okay. So he just knew
but
karate.
yeah, and I think like, I think that after that I kind of like pulled back on it, and I know that the in subsequent times I've played with them, I feel like more people have started getting comfortable like doing voices and things like that, and I'm not taking credit for it or anything, but like I think it's always fun to like kind of go all out and then see how people react to it. So
Sure.
yeah. Okay. So my next question for you is, what is your strategy for a person who seems overwhelmed with the idea of what is essentially an infinite choice video game?
Ooh, that is a good one. Usually, now granted, it depends on how much prep time I have or what I come to the table with. But oftentimes I will have a couple of like choices that the players can just default to if they don't have an answer for themselves. Um, I haven't had that issue for a while, so like I haven't been quote unquote practicing that or anything like that. But if I was playing with people I didn't know, or potentially playing in a new campaign where like the rules are a little different, then I would offer things that like the characters would just or the characters would just inherently know. Like, oh, there's a there's a split in the road, and one goes through a dangerous forest and the other goes on another path. Like, I'd have
Mm-hmm.
them roll and see what they know about the different paths, giving them more in. I guess it's more about giving the players tactical info so that it turns into a choice. So, like, in the case of the road splitting, like, I have already announced that the forest is dangerous. So maybe they don't want to go through the dangerous forest. Now, I didn't have to say what kind of forest it was, but revealing tactical information to let the players know that, like, oh, okay, that choice means things are going to be dangerous. So that kind of stuff is revealing just enough so that it kind of starts to form a choice for them if they're kind of running out of options. But I mean, the other thing too is 9 times out of 10, especially when games kind of get more comfortable and people are like kind of know what's going on, the information that you reveal, whether a game master knows it or not, will sometimes create an option that you never even saw, right? Like,
Sure.
um, we've used this example in the past that, like, oh, I want to use the chandelier to swing across the room and like get the guy in the back. Like, it's probably what happened is when I described the room, they're like, oh yeah, you see this nice banquet hall with a low hanging chandelier that's super fancy, and like, that might have just been flavor on my part, but the players latched onto that and went, ooh, I can use that as a tactical advantage. So um getting really heavy in your descriptions can oftentimes alleviate the problem of, like, oh, this is an infinite choice game, what do I do? Like, well, if you
Mm.
tell them, like, yeah, so the person you're trying to get in contact with is in that building, there's guards out front, what do you do? Like, automatically that's like, okay, well, if we interact with the guards, we'll probably get into some kind of trouble, but maybe there's another way around. And so that's when players start asking questions about, well, describe the building to me. Is there a back way and whatnot? So early on, you may need to tactically put information in there, but over time, your players kind of get used to the idea that, like, oh, I should be trying to figure out my surroundings better.
Sure.
Um, is coming out of your shell something of a threshold that you eventually pass, or do you think it's something that we revisit?
Ooh. So I'll say I think that the most important thing about it is kind of your comfort level with a couple of different things. I think it's your comfort level um with the other players at the table, or your comfort level with like the DM specifically,
Sure.
right? So like let's say for instance it was the same people that we like play with on our biweekly like Saturday thing.
Yeah.
um but you have a special surprise. It's one of your good friends from high school, wants to try his hand at DMing, and so you invited him to our table. And you're sitting on the other side with us. It's like it might take a minute for us to kind of like get comfortable with that.
Sure.
Or the opposite, where it's like sometimes, like, the case I just mentioned, like I had been playing with this guy since college, but I wasn't really familiar with anyone else at the table besides his girlfriend, who I also went to college with. And so it's like, I feel like at that point I had been playing role playing games enough, and I was comfortable enough with the both of them that I could really cut loose
Yeah.
and have fun. Um, I think that there's, like, a kind of a natural tendency for role playing games for us to kind of get shy or less shy based on the people sitting around the table with you. When it's interesting, right? Because like, I feel like the more familiar you are with a group, I feel like this bleeds out into other things too, right? Where it's like, um, I've noticed that as I've gotten more comfortable with that group of people that my friend games with, I've started like becoming more comfortable, like bringing in like non sequitur jokes and like the color commentary, like a mystery science theater thing or whatever. Whereas like the first couple times we played, I was like, I don't want everyone to think that I'm some kind of like asshole, right?
Right. Right.
Um, so it's like, I feel like there's like a build up to it, and I think that it's like, there's a place by my house that does like a newbies game every Sunday, or at least it did, and it's like I'd be very curious to see what that table is like, because like it's not only newbies, but it's like a group of newbies, you know?
Right, and they may not even
Um
know each other.
exactly.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that.
Yeah. Okay, so this last question might be, I don't know, like I don't want to say cheating's not the right word, but
Sure.
it's connected, but maybe like a
Very
little bit
loosely.
different. So do you have advice on dealing with characters who kind of like quiet up, or um like go into their shell after like inter-party conflict, you know?
Ooh. Yeah, so no, I think this is related because I th- going back to the other question, I think the quote unquote coming out of your shell is could be cyclical. Sometimes for me with my groups, I'm always out, right? But there's sometimes where I'm not. Like if I'm a player playing with a new group, like, it takes me some time to get back into that kind of groove. And I think inter-party conflict has a way of making people not feel comfortable because there's this kind
Mm-hmm.
of bleeding effect, right? Where like no matter what you do, there's kind of like an emotional level of the game that for some reason bleeds out a little bit.
Sure.
Or like I know that happens to me. Like sometimes I'm like, oh man, I'm really like heated, but like I'm not heated at the player. I'm heated because like that situation was just so intense, right? We're invoking emotions and feelings, and sometimes like, especially if you get real clever and you get real smart and kind of pit certain ideas against the players, like it can get heated. I think the best thing you can do in that case, if it's tough, right?
Sure.
I think an idea, something that I don't do, but I've seen it done before, is a red light, yellow light, green light method, where
Mm-hmm.
if two people are arguing in game and things are getting heated, you can put up something that's green, like whether it's a card or whatever, doesn't matter. If
Mm-hmm.
you put up something green, that means that you're comfortable with how this is going, right? Yellow
Okay.
means like, hey, I'm not comfortable. Like this is starting to tread into territory where I feel uncomfortable, and red is just like that hard stop. Like we need to stop. This is getting too much, right?
Okay.
So I think that is a situation where like if I'm like, say you and I are players and we're arguing because like I have a very different belief than you do, and
Sure.
I'm just like I'm really feeling that vibe, I might hold up a green like a green marker and be like, I'm into this. Like I really like this,
Mm-hmm.
Joe. Like let's fucking go, right?
We're having fun.
Right. And like we can keep going, and then if one of us decides that like, oh, maybe it's too much, we can start to do other things. I think another thing too is at the end of the day, like it is like the GM should be there to make sure that a heated argument isn't like bleeding out, and it isn't like is something that the players want to do.
Yeah.
um I think at least our group were pretty good about differentiating what's going on in game versus out of game. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe it's something we do in the future, but we haven't really had an issue yet that I'm aware of where like things got too intense.
Sure.
So I kind of play it by ear. I'm not I don't want to like make people like force some kind of new mechanic when everyone's having a good time and we don't need it. But if it does
Mm-hmm.
become an issue, I would, that would be like the first thing that I would gravitate towards.
Cool.
And then my last question, what does your and granted you can answer this a couple of different ways. What does your GM or other players at the table do that make you feel more comfortable with role playing?
Oh, interesting. Um,
Yeah, if you don't feel comfortable talking specifically about me, since I know I'm your or your GM in most cases, like what is it that like maybe other players do?
I mean, I think that there's like a combination of things that kind of make you feel more comfortable. with it. I think that um let's see. I feel like one of the things that helps me is having a table that isn't super rigid about like being in character. Um
Okay, like
and
being able to like kind of loosey goosey go in and out of like being a character, or like you don't
yeah,
want
I
a
think
GM who's like, all right, game started, everyone's in character. Like,
yeah, like
got
everyone
it.
having to stay in character. And like I think similarly too, and you know, this is maybe something that can become a little obnoxious if done excessively,
Sure.
but like kind of like not not having a table where it's like everything you say, like the dungeon master's like, oh, you said it, so you did it. And it's like, yeah, I highly doubt that, like, you know, me talking about pulling out, I don't know, um like a cat fishing rod, I highly doubt that my character would have that in his pack, you know, or her pack.
Sure.
um but I think you know, it's kind of difficult to maintain um different character voices for an incredibly long time. I think we all have kind of our jokes because, you know, most of us who are not professional voice act, you know, most of us are not professional voice actors, where like there's always one accent that our voice kind of like naturally gravitates to over time.
Yeah, like
um
you have a voice and then it just slowly turns into that. Yeah, yeah.
like I find that mine is like very like silly stereotype Russian from like an 80s sitcom,
Sure.
you know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, like especially when you're going into like hour 2 or 3 or whatever, like sometimes it's difficult, especially in these, you know, current times, because we're doing so much of it remotely and things like that. You know, it's more difficult to maintain character voices just because like sometimes they don't translate well across um like, you know, like a digital platform, you know. um and so I think just, yeah, the knowledge that you can kind of drop in and out of character, and it helps, because I understand like people who are like, oh, you have to be in character all the time for like immersion, and in a way it maybe helps you get out of your mind and into the character's mind. But I think I would find it much more intimidating for in the long term, like always having to be in character.
Right, right.
um I don't know if I would be as comfortable doing that if I had to always, you know, always be on, as it were.
Yeah,
um
I get that.
yeah. And I think too that like a thing that helps as well, this is gonna sound maybe very very simple, um and a little basic, but you know, it's always useful to have a like find a buddy who you think might be interested in it. And it's like, I know that like sometimes we move to new cities, or sometimes like we have a group of friends who's just not interested in it in the slightest, but I think it's always best to have at least one person at the table with you that like you can kind of fall back on if things start becoming overwhelming. I know me personally, like if I were to ever truly like if I were to ever go to a game store, and Tuesday is D&D night, like I don't know what kind of experience that would be like for me personally. um I'm not saying it's impossible, and who knows, maybe you meet like a great friend there, but I think that it's always important to have like at least one person who is, you know, at the very least like an like a person to fall back on as like a buddy. So
Yeah, I mean that's great. Like
I
if
know
you
it's not
can,
always possible, but
yeah, like if you can do that, like that, definitely a layer of comfort and protection when you're trying to
mhm.
do this kind of stuff.
And mad respect for the people who can just kind of go to a game store and like, you know, just pop in and be a character right off the bat.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
I respect the heck out of that. But yeah, I mean, I think personally at the end of the day, um, the thing that's the most important for bringing people out of their shells is just to kind of be like open and honest about, and this can vary from week to week, right? Like if you've had a really shitty week, sometimes maybe you're just not into it as the last session, and I think it's important to kind of be upfront about that, where it's like, guys, I had kind of had a bad week, so if I'm a little off my game today, I apologize. um like, I know that there are weeks where I'm a little more quiet at the, quote unquote table, than other weeks based on, the kind of week I had. And so, just kind of like make sure that, just everyone, if everyone's a little calm and a little understanding, and, that's for the best. So,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it definitely with this year being what it is, I totally get that, and
yeah,
I think from a game master perspective, definitely be open and understanding about people role playing. Some people are gonna get right into it and it's gonna be fun. You're gonna, whatever. And then some people might not. And there's a million different reasons, but you shouldn't feel, one, you shouldn't force it. And two, uh, like it's okay if like, everyone's gonna have an off week or whatever, or what have you. Like people will come out of their shell naturally. There are a couple things you can do to like kind of facilitate that, or let people know that like, hey, that's something you can do. You can totally make silly character voices, or just be like, my character does this, and like that's role playing. And if you can kind of keep that in mind, I think it'll go a long way for your table.
for sure.
Yeah. Well, that was a good
Um,
one. I think
yeah.
I see that over the break, our intern, bandaged up bookie. I was very woefully unaware that the pages made him bleed. Um, I figured it would kind
Wow.
of be like a haircut, like you just,
We're returning to the bit.
yeah. Um, but he seems full and satisfied, even though I did rip out one of its pages, thinking that it was like hair or fingernails.
Yeah. He's glaring at you now. Anyway, hey Cody, if people liked what they heard in this episode and they want to learn more, where's a place that they can learn more?
They can go to our website at www.fandomroulette.com, where they can find all of our shows as they're going up. We've got four circulating shows that come out on a weekly basis, so definitely check out what's new in Fandom Roulette there. And if you scroll past our bios, past all the other stuff, and get to the bottom, there's a little form you can fill out where you can ask us these questions that we ask each other to get your ideas in on this. We would like to hear from the fans, who also may have questions that they would like answered.
And if you have a friend, Cody, if a friend has a person who is interested in listening to the podcast but doesn't necessarily use the same podcasting, where are some places that they can point their friend to find the show?
They can find us at a myriad of places. We're on Google Play, SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, all of your RSS catching feeds, iTunes. All you got to do is search Fandom Roulette.
And hey, Cody, if people want to get in touch with us but don't necessarily want to go to our website, quick little, if I were to give it a name, maybe like media that is like social,
Sure.
um,
Yeah.
where's the place they could find us?
Well, they can find us on Twitter at fandomr_podcast. That is our handle there. And then you can search for us on Facebook and Instagram. Just search Fandom Roulette.
Also, please remember to like, rate, review, and subscribe.
Yeah.
Leave a comment, hit the bell,
Let us know
smash the
what you
bell.
like, what you don't like.
Yeah,
If you're listening, we're happy that of all the podcasts that you could have been listening to at this moment, that you came to hang out with us, and
yeah, for
we
sure.
appreciate you.
And yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us. Any little bit helps us move up those ranks. But
Yeah.
signing off for Fan Roulette, this is Joe.
And I'm Cody.
And as always, stay nerdy.
Stay super nerdy.